It's the Sports Peninsula podcast coming up. The Detroit Lions improved to 11-1 last week on Thanksgiving by holding off the Chicago Bears 23-20 at Ford Field. This is now the best start in team history. The Lions will have to wait another week to get the 10-day layoff as they will tangle with the Green Bay Packers this Thursday night at Ford Field on Amazon Prime. The Lions beat the Packers in Green Bay 24-14 in Week 7 and now must face another division rival, but the Lions will be shorthanded on December 5th. We'll talk about both games and about the Lions' injury situation next. Now, here is your Sports Peninsula team. Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is Dave Jasinski Drew, and it is Monday, December 2nd. Sorry, jumping ahead a little bit there. Not used to recording this early because we got another Thursday night game in Motown against the Green Bay Packers at Ford Field. Joining me to talk about that and more is Coach Andy Shield, the Marine City Mariners. Coach, how you doing?
Doing well, Drew. Doing well. I mean, it's you hear that 11-1, and I guess you know in the NFL season you just kind of lose perspective of the record. When we've been really, really, really bad, we kind of didn't think too much about the record. And I guess it's like when you're really, really, really good, because now it still doesn't matter what that record is as long as we're ahead of the Minnesota Vikings and Green Bay Packers. Chicago Bears, respectively, too. They will be talking about them. They fought and battled back into a football game on Thanksgiving Day, as well as the Philadelphia Eagles and teams that we need to be concerned about in our conference in other divisions that could be of a difficult matchup for the Lions. And then, of course, teams like the Buffalo Bills and Kansas City Chiefs on the other side in the other conference. So, these are the things that you have to be mindful of these days. Roster and health is a big component of that. And I think we have some things to talk about in regards to maybe some reinforcements that have come along and something that is a little new to us here on the Sports Peninsula podcast, and the Detroit Lions is talking about getting those kinds of reinforcements at this time of the year on our roster. We're not used to that.
No, we're not.
Down the road. Look forward to talking to you guys about it today.
Absolutely. Great points. We're definitely going to cover all that. And of course, we're joined also by the Youper, Brad Harrison. How you doing, brother?
Hey, Drew, I'm doing good. I find I don't really look at myself. This is probably like one of the only times during the day where I see my face, aside from like when I get up in the morning and shower. It's the only time I look in the mirror, I think, all day. But I'm looking at myself right now, and I got a Matt Eberflus thing going. The hair.
You didn't get fired, did you?
The beard.
Oh, okay.
I got to adjust. I got to make some adjustments. I don't want to look like Matt Eberflus. I guess I got the right hoodie on.
You manage your time well, so I think you got an edge right there. All jokes aside, that was one of the most jacked up. I was just like, what are they doing?
Chaos.
Yeah,
well, I think Matt Eberflus is making some adjustments to his LinkedIn profile.
Yeah,
because,
maybe he'll shave. Let him shave. Let me keep the beard.
And I know it's easy fodder for me to say. Watch, I'll be bounced to the curb myself for some odd reason, and deservedly so with these remarks. But yeah, I mean, don't say that to yourself, Brad. You're a fun here. Really. If you need some help, there's a lot of places you can go. Talking about Matt Eberflus. Come on. Have some pride.
Hey, fellas, we'll talk about that game, and this is now the best start by a Lions team ever. They're knocking off 56, 54, 34. I mean, the 34 team started out 9-0, I believe, but the 34 team did not go 11-1. So this is the best start in team history. Obviously, the best start we've ever seen personally. But yeah, let's talk about that game a little bit. And just at the end, first of all, since we brought it up, Coach, I want to ask you, and I know the head coach is responsible ultimately. I get it. I totally get that. And it's in any job, the manager, the head, the boss is in charge, and they're responsible for it. And it's a lot easier to get rid of one guy than it is to get rid of 10 others. I get it. But in your opinion, is this all on Eberflus, or is this on some of the players that were on the offensive side of the football on the field at that time? What do you think?
You gotta get the clock stopped. You have a timeout.
Yeah,
call a timeout. I mean, that's the coach. I mean, I have yet to be a head coach in my coaching career, but I've coached and played for, but coached for with some really, really good ones, including the one that we have now, and Coach Darren Letson. He took control of time. He takes control of timeouts. Coach Glodich took control of timeouts. Coach Schindler would allow us to call them. So I guess maybe he's a little different that way. But Coach Scarcelli, Jim Scarcelli, called the timeouts. Tony Scarcelli would call the timeouts. And Coach Bob would call timeouts.
Yeah.
So though I just named all those were in those scenarios were head coaches. So that's on him, man. I mean, who's going to control the manage of the game? I mean, it's like if your school is in a state of disarray, the principal is going to be the person they're going to look to first. And that's just the way it goes in the chain of command. I'm preaching to the choir with you guys in your fields of work. You know how this works. I mean, that is a colossal error. That game should have been tied, and who knows what happens in the overtime period.
Yeah,
that was really like the football gods, getting us back with the Marty Morningwood coin toss.
Good point.
I mean, just like you're watching this, looking at that little nub there up there by the 20. Isn't that a timeout? Doesn't that say they have one?
Yeah.
Huh?
I was just it's crazy. I could not believe it. And I mean, even after the game, I mean, I could see even lines are looking around like, is it over? They didn't call the timeout. Like, oh my gosh. Brad, I got to tell you, man, obviously being 11-1, there's not a lot to get upset about this year, right? Even the loss to Tampa Bay it was frustrating, but even with 5 minutes left in the game, the Lions had 2 offensive drives to possibly score in that game. I was not happy with this one. Reason being because of the way the Lions played in the first half, contrasted with how they played in the second half. What were your thoughts on? It's kind of 2 different games that we saw on Thanksgiving.
Well, I mean, it was uneven, I mean, to settle for those field goals. We were so appreciative of Jake Bates and what he's brought to the team. But man, field goals will kill you in the NFL. And unfortunately that is, that's what that was one of the issues. The Bears played well defensive. Like, I'm not getting on Jameer for that fumble. That was a huge mistake, but that was a great play.
It was.
That guy, that safety came in there, did exactly what he was intending to do, and he did it. So, I mean, we were 1 out of 4 touchdowns in the red zone. Maybe I don't know those stats right in my brain, but right. So just seeing the way we were marching and just fizzling out there in the red zone was something we're not accustomed to right now. So I'd like to think, the coaching staff and the players on that offense, that won't happen. That won't happen Thursday, right? Like this is way too talented of an offense to just, that's all of a sudden is what Detroit has become. No chance. Absolutely no chance. I think missing Taylor Decker is a problem for us. Right. And, him not playing Thursday, we saw what it's like. Maybe some of us think he's a little long in the tooth and he's been around and what happens next. And is he still well, guess what? When he's not in there.
Oh, yeah.
And so we need them all, and we'll be a lot better when Taylor Decker gets back. But, Jameer fumbling that ball, and I think he got 1 touch the second half.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't carry the ball again, right? Like, and I know they got to balance it out between Demo and him, and we're blessed to have them both. I just felt like it was just out of sorts. It just was uneven. There were some things that happened during that game that are on film now, and and these guys will learn from it.
Yeah, and you got to have confidence in that, because even though, like I said, they're 11-1, there's still always been things to correct, and they've been able to do that and make adjustments. And coach, you don't become 11-1 and not make adjustments to all of the injuries, of course, like we talked about earlier. And I tell you what, I think we need those two fellas there, because it ain't looking good in Allen Park right now. I mean, my goodness, I mean, I've seen this many injuries on teams on one side of the ball, and those teams are usually 3 or 4 win teams, because there's only so much you can do. But talk about how the Lions have persevered through all the injuries.
Well, they've done so with a tremendously resiliently built roster that is extremely, extremely deep, and built from the inner cores within right to the outward parts of the structure. And you can depend on any one of these parts. And how, what are the benefits of doing this? You have total team control of your team. So you can say you really truly are never put in cap hell, because you totally have full say of who comes and goes. You save pennies on the dollar in regards to process. And yes, you can max out and pay many, many players very good money this way. Through the homegrown process. It is the most economic way to go, and it does provide you typically some allowance when you do hit this wall in December, end of November, to go to the market and purchase guys like Quan Alexander, David Long Jr., Jamal Adams. And getting these players, Allen Robinson, and getting these players here, and ultimately probably contributing sooner rather than later. I can guarantee you we'll see Jamal Adams out there. If not this Thursday, you'll see him the following Sunday, 10 days later. Mm-hmm. Quan Alexander, we may see him against Green Bay. Very likely, because we're now going to depend on David Long Jr. for substantive reps with Rodrigo going down. Yeah. So, we are all sorts of banged up. Biggest concerns for me, yes, Taylor Decker. We brought that to light because, I'm seeing us throw away too many plays too, just kind of check down, kind of throw it at the feet of Gibbs or of Monty or somebody that's in the in the box, because it was a setup and they kind of got it figured out, and we just gave up on the play and took the loss of down. Yeah. Too much of that. We the mantra of the Lions is getting those 3-4 yards per down and shrinking things down. If we're going to waste a down, let's try to do it running the football. I understand that's taking a toll on our running backs, which we do have to be mindful of. And I guess but if we're throwing to those running backs, or looking to throw those running backs and it's snuffed out, those are some things that we have to be mindful of. And it might be because the timing's not there due to some offensive line play. Taylor Decker is quicker than Dan Skipper. Dan Skipper is one tough out on a pass block rep because of that length, that 6'9", 6'10", whatever he is. That's so hard to rush the passer on. He's got people there. And he's still fluid enough to where he can get a down block and create some movement, or at least have an incredible seal wall in a run game, in the run game to a certain, But he's not Taylor Decker. He doesn't have those feet. He's not as quick. He doesn't move as well as Taylor Decker. And the screen game types of things that Dan Skipper is not going to be a very helpful old lineman. And it becomes a tendency if they would sub him out and bring somebody in, that pretty much gives away that what they're doing. So and bring a third guard out or something like that, and try to do it that way, that becomes a tendency that they'll pick up on right away. So, some issues that way that really is starting to kind of and that's on the offensive side of the ball. That's on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, I mean, it seems like it's been one after another. Our linebacking core is thinned out. Carlton Davis, guys, this is a bit we need him good. We need him good. Long term, we need him good. And to be 11-1, and Drew, I mean, Brad, we're 11-1, and our defense has taken this kind of a beating. This used to be the excuse.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, you're probably better off naming who hasn't missed a game this year versus who has. And I'm being honest. I mean, you're talking McNeil and Reeder have been the stalwarts on the D line. Everyone else has come and gone. I mean, owns a
Reeder didn't start the year. He missed a game, didn't he?
That's right. You're right, because he was coming off the injury. So McNeil really is the only one, I believe, who hasn't. I don't think he's missed a game. Linebacker, everyone but Jack Campbell.
Everybody,
in essence. And in the secondary, you're talking Kirby Joseph
and Branch.
Well, yeah, he only played one quarter in the Green Bay game, wasn't it? And then
hey, like what is baseball? Just be strong up the middle. We're just strong up the middle.
You know, there's some logic to that.
No, there's not. I just
no. I'm serious. I mean, their D tackles are strong. They're strong in the middle at linebacker, and they're strong or very strong at safety. They're very good there. I mean, there's something to be said about that. But yeah, I mean, the rash of injuries. But coach, you brought it up, and they bring in Long, they bring in Alexander, they bring in Adams, they trade for Smith. I mean, it's amazing the versatility they have on this roster, because most of it's homegrown, like you said, and a lot of it's day 2 and day 3 picks. So even those guys aren't breaking the bank, so to speak. Now, eventually they will, but of course, that's the Patriot way. You keep drafting. You're going to keep your core guys, but you can't keep everybody. So you've got to keep the cupboard full. I just think that Brad Holmes done a fantastic job, and I'm concerned about Thursday a little bit, just because of the injuries for the most part. But we'll talk about that in a little while. But more about this Bears game, Coach. What did you see the Bears doing on defense that really kind of stymied the Lions, or was it a little bit of issues with how the Lions were executing? Because now you touched on it a little bit, but what did you see?
Well, there's always a feeling process, and Ben Johnson typically is so good at keeping his rhythm and his cadence and his schedule trumping what the defense is trying to adjust or trying to see or respond to. He can kind of, if he can latch on to what you're doing, exactly what you're doing with coverage, he's going to get you. He's going to get you. And, I think we sort of, there's been a couple times, I don't want to call it like snooze mode, but like just too much pass on first down, run on second down, like multiple series in a row. And I don't care for these play concepts where it's really a play concept, but it's a pass. So it's a screen, basically. It's some sort of screen, maybe screen pass option downfield or something like that. And if it's snuffed and figured out, then we just give up on it and throw it like into the ground or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like I alluded to that earlier. And some of that has to be, we have to be, I think, forward moving in our scheme. If that means we start using a third back a little bit, so be it. I understand that also is taking a toll on our offensive line, but if there's one thing that we should do pretty well in regards to, even if we had to kind of change those guys out a little bit and kind of break and share a couple of reps here and there, just for the sake of health, and get some of these guys out there. But once again, our offensive line hasn't been healthy. So that makes it kind of tough to do. And you can only beat on those guys so much. We've got a lot of football to play, guys. We have 6 regular season games and the playoffs. Hopefully we can be rewarded with a bye. For the sake of our health. But yeah, it's taken a toll. So I think we've had to throw a little more.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have thrown a little more. Brad, what do you think? I mean, what like
Well,
what do you think it's done to the offensive scheme?
Let's keep Goff throwing it and not our right tackles. I mean, he's a
That was
tremendous athlete.
He was smart enough to tuck it and try to run.
Yeah, so he didn't throw it. Yeah, he was smart enough to not do that. But I don't know. To me, that cute stuff is cute when it works, and man, when it doesn't work, it just looks foolish to me. And we just weren't there. Well, I don't remember the score, but we weren't up by multiple touchdowns and trying. I mean, the game was still the game.
Let's get down to brass tacks.
Yeah, we're good at that's what we do. That's what we we win running the ball. We win with Montgomery and Gibbs, and then that opens the play action up. I mean,
yeah,
it doesn't. Everybody in the stadium gets it right. Like, I'm sure if that thing would have worked, it would have been a Thanksgiving miracle. But I think it's easy. We're talking about the offensive side of the ball right now, Drew. We can get back to what we do fairly easily. And when we can run the ball, when the offensive line can dominate, it can't be stopped. But that's got to happen. So, rely on the run, and and we'll get to the defensive side of the ball at some point of the show. But
yeah, definitely. But on offense, I did want to touch on one thing. We're fans of Jameson Williams here. We are. Everyone likes him. There's been issues every year, but they've never been so egregious that people start getting down on him, because he's a good guy. It seems like. I mean, does some good things in the community, all that stuff. It seems like a good, personable guy. Coach, how many times are they going to put up with the immaturity, though? The gambling thing wasn't a big deal, but it's still a rule and you broke it. Well, the PED thing wasn't a terrible deal because of the circumstances, but it still happened. And oh, by the way, I get that an opposing player tried to trip you and mess with you, but you get the 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalty and take your team out of position to score. At what point do you say enough's, one more time, and we're going to be dealing with this in a different fashion? Or is he so fragile and so you got to kid gloves with him to the point where you almost got to let him do those things? I'm not on board with that, but what are your thoughts?
Definitely not on board with handling him with kid gloves and allowing him to really change the tenor of the game. We were about ready to score and put it away. Go up by 2 scores. We're about ready to do that. And that stoned that drive. And then we stalled out again. And that just kept on leading to things that were not in favor of the Lions. The whole mood and tenor changed. The coaches got pissed, and rightfully so. The leaders of the team got pissed, and rightfully so. Jameson was pissed, and rightfully so. Tyrique Stevenson's an idiot. I mean, he comes out of bounds, and he it's not on the refs. I mean, if Tyrique Stevenson wants to do that, and in that kind of a scenario, he's just going to be able to. I don't know how many of either one of you guys have ever run in towards the sideline, and and the play carries you over, and you are able to kind of gather yourself there. You're trying to slow yourself down, so somebody could do something to you easy, shove you, pinball you into somebody, barrel into you, like I said, stump you and kind of, boss you and shoulder you, trip you, leg whip you. All those kinds of things can happen. You can either do it or you don't. I mean, it's that simple. He did. So he's that kind of dude. That sucks. But I mean, hey, there's other ways you can, you impose yourself, because JMO, I think you have a little more upside than old Tyrique Stevenson right now. And I think you're in a little bit better situation than old Tyrique Stevenson. That's not to say Tyrique doesn't have a future in this league, but you just about cost us a game on the field with your play this time, or in your behavior. So I mean, you know, it's different. We haven't had somebody like this in quite a while. And no, I mean, what do you suggest? I'm not asking you this, Drew, or you, Brad, but I mean, are you two, is one to imply we should suspend Jameson Williams on Thursday because of his behavior? Oh, I don't think there's anyone that's interested in doing that.
Yeah.
Or are we just gonna, he's gonna come back to haunt us, but yet, when he gets his 45-yard chunk play or some big bomb touchdown or some reverse for 50 yards on 3rd and long, to be thrilled, hey, we're going to take what we can get from Jameson Williams. I think we've just kind of learned, he's kind of a shooting star at this point in time. We have to view him kind of like almost in the same vein as like a Dennis Rodman in his tenure here. It's likely to come to an end. It's probably going to finish somewhere else. He's probably going to get paid really handsomely to go somewhere else. And if it becomes a bidding war because it's the Bears or the Vikes or the Pack, well, then I guess we got something to think about. But, Jameson Williams has proven to me to be a guy that we should embrace and take and see the good in him and embrace and love that part of him and try to do so that he may start to change some of his thinking. The kid showed up at the state championships on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
He was there at the Division I state final, Cass Tech versus Hudsonville. He was there watching the game. So, I mean, he after, not the Thanksgiving Day game, but the week before, or the last home game before that, was he and Kirby Joseph were handing out turkeys. I don't think, 2 hours after the game in some community center. And so, I mean, there's a lot of great things that Jameson Williams is doing. We also know the negative. We lived another and dodged another bullet. Brad, what do you think? Do you think it's going to be corrected?
Well, I like what I heard from Campbell during the post game, that unprompted apologized to his team.
That was big.
But the apologies are running. They've got to be wearing thin. They have to be wearing thin. But I could appreciate him doing that. There's so many good men around him. Antoine Randall, you're not going to find a better guy.
Do you see how he handled him afterwards, Drew?
Oh, yeah. Look, so I think someone tweeted whose dad ever did this to him. Like, yeah, how many times you get that look, man? It's like, oh, shit.
I'll tell you what. That's an all Big Ten quarterback and starting point guard for Bobby Knight.
Well,
the same guy.
Yeah.
You remember him in Indiana?
You've got Antoine Randall. You have Antoine Randall. You're learning under him. You've got Amon-Ra St. Brown in the room. Yeah. Soak it up, man. Soak it up. Yeah. It's easy for us to say, right? It's easy for us to sit here and talk about it. It should be easy to not do the things he's done. But those things have happened. They've continued for some, the talent outweighs it right now. Dan Campbell doesn't put up with much, in my estimation. I don't think so, right? Like, there's plenty of guys who cannot be on this team. He said it himself.
Yeah.
Jameson Williams, to this point today, can be on this team. So I'm going to sit there with Antoine Randall, Ben Johnson, Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, and go, all right, guys, this is what we got. And if they're not done with them, I'm not done with them. But man, none of us saw that trip, right? When it happened, we just saw.
No, not when it first happened.
No,
I was out of my mind. I was out of my mind because of all the things you talked about, the point of the game, what was happening, and what was at stake. And I don't know if was I happy he got tripped? I think so, right? Like, but we need to be better than this, JMO. And I'd like to think he can be.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think everything we're talking about is correctable. It's behavioral, but it's not like necessarily a deeply ingrained thing. These are just reactions. you can correct reactions. You can be coached out of reactions. I think. I mean, you can. I mean, it may take time, but it can happen. It needs to happen. But yeah, I think I agree with you. I agree with both you guys. But Brad, when you said if they're okay with them, I'm okay with them. I agree. I'm going to trust that they've got it under control, and that's that. I mean, no reason to doubt what Dan Campbell.
They did put him on that bench. We saw a lot of Allen Robinson after that, now didn't we?
Mm-hmm. Now you got to sit and chill a little bit. Think about what you did.
I was for that.
Affectionately known as a timeout.
Yeah,
you're a lad.
I was for number 8 running those routes for the next however many you got.
Drew, there was a lot of good things that happened too, my friend. There's a lot of good things that happened too. 405 yards total offense, pretty balanced. 211 through the air and 194 on the ground. He had 194 yards.
That's tremendous.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Gave up 301. Caleb Williams had 223 pass yards. They only had 78 on the ground. A game well played by him in a hostile environment on a big stage. Hey, this is the NFL on Thanksgiving Day, and it's the lead game. That's a different stage that he's ever played for. Yeah, he's played in some big college games and played on network TV, but that was a big one, and he handled it fairly well. 20 for 39, 256 yards and 3 TDs. I mean, his completion percentage was not brilliant, but you know what? I tell you what, he was pretty successful. Our guy, 21 for 34, 221 and 2 touchdowns. Drew, the quarterback playing this game, first Caleb Williams and then Jared Goff.
Well, I agree with what you said. Caleb Williams, when he missed, it was kind of ugly, but it was never, that I recall, he never really came close to turning the ball over. So you'll take that, especially from a rookie. And the way he played in the second half, he was composed. He wasn't erratic. He wasn't just tucking and running. He was pretty composed. So I thought he played pretty well too. And statistically he was very sound. I mean, it just wasn't enough, obviously. And then Jared Goff, I mean, I think the Lions really, when they started running in the first half, they were getting 6-7 yards a pop. So why abandon it? And they didn't. So for a lot of the first half, I mean, Goff wasn't necessarily throwing a lot. He threw a little more in the second half, but I think the red zone issues is really the big deal, because if the Lions had even scored one other touchdown, and they had opportunities in the first half, you're talking about a 23-0 halftime game. That changes everything, because even 16-0 is still only 2 scores technically. The Bears didn't have to abandon the run. They were able to keep their playbook open, which I think is what enabled Williams to do what he needed to do. I wouldn't put it on Goff necessarily. I think there was a conservatism in the second half a little bit, is what it seemed like to me watching. And I don't know the playbook. So although we got some help on Instagram apparently a couple of days ago, but I'm joking, I'm serious. But it seemed like they got a little conservative in the second half, and the Bears were chipping away. And what I would like to talk about, and Brad, you brought, and Coach, you said we need Carlton Davis back, and I know why, in my opinion. 29 Vildor was struggling out there, Brad, and when the interference call happened in the fourth quarter, I gotta admit I was pissed, very pissed. Then when I saw it, I'm like, really? That's the call? It happens. But bottom line is, even the week before that game, Builder was getting picked on a lot. This game he was a little better, but still there were issues. Yeah, they need Carlton Davis back, but I would say, I'm not trying to pick on the guy, but it is what it is. I mean, they definitely got to shore that up. What did you see out there, Brad?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a reason we overhauled the secondary room this offseason. Now they brought him back after kind of the dust settled, but he's not that guy. Like, he's just, maybe a great guy for the team and special teams, but to rely on him is we felt that against the Niners in the postseason. Yeah. So, it's unfortunate that that's where we're at, but I mean, the kid knows the plays, right? Like he can he's probably got a leg up on others. But yeah, we're all for Carlton Davis III to heal quickly. And
Yes.
And you're right. I mean, that penalty was, could have went either way. I feel like the end of that game, I don't know what those officials, they just got flag happy. Like, and then it got, I mean, I guess penalty's a penalty if it's the first quarter or the fourth quarter, but that could have not been called, and
Right.
nobody in Chicago would have been crying about it. But it was called and made it for an interesting, however many seconds were left in that game when that happened. So yeah, we're depleted on defense. He's healthy. He can play. So
Yep.
that's where we're at.
Yeah, and so we're going into this week now on Thursday. I can't remember, guys, when the Lions have had back-to-back, like a Thursday night game after a Thanksgiving game, although it hasn't been a lot of Thursday night football over the years. I mean, it's a fairly recent phenomenon, but it's interesting. But they still obviously get a full natural week off. Probably could have used the 10 days at this point, but they'll get it after this game coming up. But Coach, I'll start with you. Green Bay coming to town. What is Detroit going to have to do? Who's going to have to step up on defense, especially these new guys that you see are going to make an impact in this game, because they're going to need all the help they can get.
Well, I mean, they only have the 7-day turnaround, so like getting Jamal. I mean, yeah, they're and they said they're going to have to be quick studies. They're going to have to be elevated quickly and see what they, if there's any opportunities for them. There are certain things you can pick up on, and understanding what you're looking for in coverage, but all the calls, the signaling, the change ups, the transitions, that's going to take a minute for them to pick up on, and you can't just get that overnight. So I mean, to expect Jamal Adams to come in and be like a starter, on Thursday, that's probably not in anyone's best interest. For us to expect, to see some of the same names come back out there once again, yeah, you're going to. That's just kind of where things are at. It's in a process of changing, and like we said, we have some reinforcements coming. It's going to be most notable at linebacker. We're going to see a lot more David Long Jr. Going to see a lot more David Long Jr. And I think you may see some Quan Alexander. He may, because of just brute force necessity, get some more minutes. We have to. Our D line has to dominate. We have to play through them. They're probably our healthiest unit, and that's taking the biggest ding of them all with Aiden Hutchinson going down. That's probably our healthiest unit. Josh Paschal's playing outstanding football right now. Yeah. He really is playing well. Al-Qadim Muhammad has done a nice job.
Yes,
he's really and like you said, our defensive tackles have been fantastic. And Za'Darius is contributing and doing some things right away. So I mean, it's good to see. We will see Jack Campbell. He's really going to kind of carry the torch now for the linebacking core. He is going to be surrounded by some good veteran players in the name of David Long and most notably Quan Alexander. Quan Alexander was a Pro Bowl All-Pro linebacker for the Buffalo Bills in his heyday. So I mean, good football player. Very good football player. And we know Jamal Adams. We know this. And I think, the flexibility of getting a Jamal Adams can allow Brian Branch to flex out and do some things with the corner position if we needed him to.
Good point.
And that may be kind of what we're leaning towards for a little while until we can get some solvency there and get Carlton Davis back, because it does kind of feel like we're a little stretched out there now. And in maybe a position that we were not even in last year. And we haven't seen it yet because it's just happened. It just happened in this Chicago game. So that's the kind of the feels. I mean, Aaron Glenn has done a magnificent job. The numbers really still speak for themselves. We gave up a few passing touchdowns and gave up 20 points. 20 points with our offense. If that's all we're giving up is 20 points, I like our chances. So we're playing fantastic lights out defense. Kudos to Coach Glenn and that staff, and for the guys in the next man up approach. But that next man, we don't know who that next man is. We got to go to the airport to figure that out, because I think they're coming into town still there, Drew. You can hit the train station, Brad. Dave's going to hit the airport. You guys can figure it out from there.
We got it covered.
I'll take the shoreline. I'll look for the steamships to come in.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I'm perplexed by it. I like what you brought up about possibly getting Branch. I could see Branch moving to nickel and Adams going back to safety, maybe Robertson going to the outside, because he can play that. Robertson can do that. That would help a little bit. And Terrion Arnold's back. But I don't know, guys, what the timeline is on some of these injuries. Now, we know Anzalone's going to be back for the playoffs. We know Hutchinson might be available if the Lions go to the Super Bowl, when they go to the Super Bowl. Still thinking like that. Davenport's out. Derek Barnes, I heard, is trying to see what he can do. I don't know. And that's up in your. Rodrigo's done for the year. But again, getting Zadarius Smith and then Kaminsky might be back too, Coach. Is that John Kaminsky? Will he have an opportunity to possibly come back late in the season?
Possibly towards the very, very tail end of the season, into the playoffs, right around the start of the playoffs.
Oh, with that.
The immediate one is Carlton Davis, in my opinion. That's the one that's a realistic. We got to get him back in the lineup here in the regular season as fast as we can. But he's fast as we can with him being 100%.
Yeah.
Because if he comes back and he's 75, 80%, and we can never get him more than 80, 85, then no go. That's going to get us beat. We need him at 85, 90% after he's been, sweating it out again for a few rounds. So we got to get him back. That's really, if there's two guys we need to really see get healthy for the Detroit Lions, and there's many. They all need to get healthy. They all have great value, but that would be Taylor Decker on the offense, and I believe Carlton Davis on the defense. David, what do you think?
Yeah, no question. The offense is going to have to carry the load at least for the next couple of games. I would say this Green Bay game on Thursday coming up here, and then they've got the Buffalo Bills 10 days after that in Ford Field on a 4:30 start. That's going to be a hell of a game. That's a tough game. And again, we talk about as fans, as Lions fans at least, and we've seen our other pro teams have amazing seasons and win championships, and you're not worrying about every single game because you just know. And I'm not worried about this Lions team even with all these injuries. But you guys brought up earlier, there's so many good teams in the NFC. I mean, they still have an edge on the Vikings and Packers. Even if they lost to the Packers or lost to the Vikings, they've got a conference record tiebreaker. They'd be head to head 1-1. But like Philly, that's a team that could leapfrog you. I'd hate to have to go to Philadelphia and play in an NFC championship game. I'd much rather have it in Ford Field. To me, that would give Philly now, mind you, the Lions are great on the road. They're undefeated on the road now, but that is a hostile environment and a very good football team out in Philly. So that's why these games are so important. This game is so critical. And I guess we should jump into talking about that now a little bit. And I'll throw it to you, Brad. What do you think the philosophy is going to be for the Lions on the defensive side to take on Jordan Love and company? I know Romeo Doubs is still in concussion protocol, but for the most part, I think the Packers are pretty healthy on offense. So what do you see happening here?
Well, I think Aaron Glenn's designs are going to come into play here. Let's not forget who we're playing. He's going to give you some turnovers, right? Like, you're going to have to go make the play, Kirby, Branch. We're going to have to go with turnovers against Jordan Love, and it's possible. It's absolutely possible. Yep. Stopping the run is going to be difficult with the way this defense is depleted, but I do believe there's going to be some turnovers that are available for us, make the play. With that one or two times where he's going to throw, don't let it go between your hands, man. Bring it in, make a play. So those safeties are going to be so critical in my mind to Thursday night's game. I think that's on the defensive side of the ball. That's where we can get an advantage against Green Bay. And, Aaron Glenn, man, who would have thought Muhammad would have got the sack in the game, right? Zadarius Smith, thank you, Brad Holmes, for bringing him to town. Smith's all fired up for this game. The way he left Green Bay, he's salty about that. So, being salty doesn't win football games, but sometimes it helps. Give you a little burn behind you. So, I don't know. I'd like to think Jordan Love is not a perfect quarterback. Let's capitalize on the mistakes he will make.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good point. Coach, how do you handle Josh Jacobs? I know in the last game, the Lions played in Green Bay against the Pack. Again, they won 24-14, but Jacobs was able to do some things on the ground a little bit. He had 95 yards rushing, and I think they had like 138 as a team. So again, that's the bread and butter Lions run stopping defense. Is that the focal point here?
Oh, well, hey, he ran so violently and physically on Thanksgiving Day against the Dolphins. He is a force to be reckoned with. He runs hard and physical. It's a real physical, hard run style. He's kind of got the Kenneth Walker thing going, but all muscle. He's really in many ways like facing David Montgomery. It's a bruising running style. And once he gets downhill, he can be really, really difficult to take down. So, we have to be tacklers. We have to frame him up. We've got to set good quality edges. We've got to get his shoulders square, and we need to get those shoulders square behind the line of scrimmage so that we can frame him up and attack his hips and shoulders and create some scrums and nullify him. You're doggone right. That's going to be a big focal point of what we do on defense. It's got to be done through there, so it makes us then kind of know what's coming from Jordan Love. We got to, when we know he's going to throw, or we know we're putting him in a pass situation, better it be that than us to adjust solely by formation and hope that we can start make a play on him or make a play in the run game. We need to take away that run. And that's got to be the game plan. And that's that. And yeah, you get burned if you just say, well, just and then force Jordan Love to pass. Not necessarily just saying that. But what we are, what I'm trying to kind of make that point is that what we got to look at is if we can make them as dimensional as possible and put them behind the sticks, third and middle and longer, better. That's kind of what the Lions have lived on. Really is maybe a first down here, a first down there, but it somehow winds up 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. Just like within the first or second down. Sometimes it's a 3 and out. And if we can make a play behind the line of scrimmage, there's going to be a 12th man factor. That crowd is going to be ballistic, and yes, hopefully it creates some difficulty in communication for the Green Bay Packers, so that that either that draws some penalties in of itself, or that miscommunication leads to some unforced errors.
Yeah, you're right. I was just thinking that too. A Thursday night game in Detroit. That crowd's gonna be lit up. They're definitely gonna cause problems. Now let's talk about offensively. A little different. I don't know. Now, guys, tell me, is Decker? He's questionable for the game still, right? Or is he out? I have not seen
any other word otherwise either. I think
he didn't practice today, and didn't sound like he was about to play.
Well, What I think though, Jair Alexander's still pretty banged up on the Green Bay defense. Xavier McKinley's still back there. He's a very good one. Their front seven, Quay Walker at linebacker, and you've got Rashawn Gary at defensive end, outstanding former Wolverine. But I think the Lions offensively have enough options and enough like I said, options and versatility that they're going to be able to do what they need to do. But coach, they gotta. I think they need a little bit more consistency in this game versus what they had against the Bears, where they were pretty much lights out in the first half, and then it was a little tough sledding in the second half. What do you see the Lions doing offensively in this game to at least help the defense out more? Because they're going to have to help the defense out in this game, I think.
Yeah, you slow that down by keeping the clock moving. Now in the NFL, that's not that hard to do. You can do that by even running out of bounds. You can do that still, but we got to keep that clock moving. We don't want incomplete passes. So what's the best way to limit incomplete passes? Don't pass. That's the best way to do it. And now that's my very civilian coach. High school mentality. That's easy for me to say. That it's not that easy to do in the NFL. But we have to live through this offensive line. That is the core star of our team. Is this offensive line? And it's something that we are having to consider reinforcing soon. Just because we're seeing how we need and want to be able to use them.
Yeah.
So now does that mean we can just ground and pound like maybe Michigan did last year or tries to do, or that you see at the high school level? I mean, there's an NFL version of ground and pound. We probably are that. It has to come. There has to be some balance in your offensive scheme. But we've got to be able to clear and have the middle of the field with Amon-Ra. We've got to be able to get Laporta moving across formations, either crossing the formation from behind the line of scrimmage, across the line of scrimmage, or going downfield, getting Jameson Williams involved, and really the emergence of Tim Patrick. I mean, when you saw Tim Patrick kind of going off. He's a check down player, and that tells you that the Bears were pretty tight on our scheme when we're hitting Patrick. And Patrick made some brilliant plays. He was the right read, and Jared hit him perfectly. But that's where things need to be. We have to click on offense, and moving that football. But more so, hey, I mean, when you get to the first and goal at the 9 or 10-yard line, it's easier said than done. It can be a little harder than it looks to score, because I mean, everyone kind of the field shrunken down to a 10-yard field.
Yeah.
What do you guys see is what do we do? Because pick plays are illegal. You can't do that.
Chicago learned that.
Yep, Chicago.
I mean, yeah, we saw that full well.
Oh yeah.
What do you suggest we do? What do you suggest we do to get us getting those 4-point conversions on top of those field goals?
It's a run game. It is the absolute run game, as you said, which leads to the play action. It's I'd like to see more Amon-Ra this Thursday than we did last Thursday. For one reason or another, Jared. I think about there's a lot of options out there, but I think when you need one, number 14 is where you go.
Yeah.
I love seeing Laporta in the end zone for sure. Like that, that's helping things out. Make no mistake, Green Bay knows who's beat them as many times as they've gotten beat. And the Detroit Lions, aside from last Thanksgiving, which was just a nightmare, right? At least the first half was. I mean, the rest of the game was fine.
Mm-hmm.
We can be in their head a little bit, for sure. Let's get this thing rolling. Let's get it going downhill. Let's rely on this offensive line, get behind Sewell, and get Gibbs out in some open space. That speed is incredible.
Yeah.
There's so many ways. Like, this game could be one of these ridiculous, annoying 44-40. I can't stand that kind of football. But we're gonna have to outscore this team, and we've got the horses to do it. But I loved what you said early on, Coach. Let's shorten the game by having long drives and not petering out in their red zone. That can't happen Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with either of you guys. Truly, I mean, the run is gonna open up the pass in this game. One thing that's interesting, I mean, Khalif Raymond is out now, and we know he's gonna miss significant
Huge
time.
loss.
Yeah, it is a huge loss, especially on special teams with kick and punt returns. But J-Mo didn't play in Week 7 against Green Bay, so that's a nice element to have there. I mean, he's the ultimate field stretcher. I mean, and they have to account for him. So that's
Did
going to
you hear
help.
he said he wants to return punts?
Yeah.
Hey,
So is Terry and Arnold.
yeah, yeah, I know. I heard that, and I was like, okay. And when Maurice Alexander, I was glad they didn't have Saint back there. I'll be honest with you. But then they just released Alexander.
I'm surprised Alexander got
They're doing
cut.
something different.
Yeah, they are. They're going to be doing something. Now, I'm surprised Craig Reynolds wasn't actually tapped for that, to be honest with you, because he did it before. And he's pretty decent, especially in kickoffs. He was pretty good. So I don't know. Maybe they're trying that. It's possible. I don't know. But realistic, yeah, Dorsey. That makes a lot of sense too. So we shall see. But gentlemen, we have less than 5 minutes to go here on our show, and we got to get to predictions here. And lot to like. Lot to be concerned about, obviously, but we've talked about it at length here. Let's talk about how we think this is going to shake out. And Coach, let's hear your thoughts on this one.
Well, we're 11-1, and for us to keep going down the pike and calling victory after victory after victory after victory, that's easy to do. And that's what we all want to do, right? We want to do right, but sometime this axe is going to fall. Yeah. And we're going to get that second loss. And, and doggone Minnesota Vikings are, I don't know who's luckier this year, the Chiefs or the Vikings, because they seem to always get some Rasputin way of winning. But, this Thursday, that's not going to happen. The Detroit Lions are going to win this football game. And we're going to go to 12-1. And I do agree it could be a little bit seesaw. I am going to go 38-31 Detroit Lions and a victory over the Green Bay Packers to go 12-1 this Thursday. Drew, what do you thought? Where are you going with things?
Not too dissimilar with last week. I think we were only 1 point on the Lions side of the scoreboard apart on our prediction, and we're very similar here. I have the Packers scoring 31 in this game as well. I have the Lions scoring 34. Jake Bates better be ready to go. I just got a feeling we might need him late in that game. And it may be a long one, but I'm very confident in him. But yeah, I think it's going to be an up and down battle. It's going to come down to, like Brad mentioned earlier, turnovers. They're going to need some, and even Coach Campbell brought that up in the press conference after the game against Chicago. We had a chance. We got to get some turnovers. So I think it's going to be a close one. But yeah, I do see the Lions winning. It's going to be a tough ass football game. It's going to be a great game, actually. Brad, what do you think?
Well, I went to bed last night saying I'm okay with a loss because I didn't see the injuries that are piling up. I didn't see a way forward. I just there's just too much coming against this defense. And then I heard Dan Campbell speak this morning. He's the reason the Detroit Lions will win Thursday night because he has built this team for this. This is he's relishing this opportunity to put these men at Ford Field to take on the Green Bay Packers.
Yep.
Whoever they are, however they are, they're going to get in that room, and Dan Campbell's going to coach them up. And that's where my faith in this team lies right now, is on that coaching staff and what they're going to do to get the team ready.
Yeah, score.
Go Lions. I hate these 38, 31, 34, 31, man, all night long, right? Well, if Green Bay is scoring 31, let's score 42 and call it arena ball.
Well, let's just hope the Lions get a W, right? But yeah, I think just seeing that the tendency might be it's going to be a bit of a shootout, but hopefully the Lions will pull this one on. I think we're confident they will, but it's going to be a close one. For Coach Andy Shield, the Marine City Mariners, for the Uper Brad Harrison, my name is Drew. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube and on the ESEN network on every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Take care, and thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next week. This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Follow us on YouTube so you don't miss an episode at the Sports Peninsula Podcast. You can also follow us on Twitter X. Just look for @SportsP Podcast, and follow us to keep up on sports around the great state of Michigan and beyond. You can also catch our show every Saturday night at 7 p.m. on the ESEN Network channel as part of Roku. When you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one Sports Peninsula Podcast.